It's called A Christmas Party for Santa. And I'm going to dedicate this to my Della girl. Planning a party. Santa Claus is such a dear old fella. Dremia breathed a long sigh of satisfaction as she closed her Christmas book and dropped it on the low chair beside the couch where she was lying. She had been reading by the last rays of sunset streaming through the window and the head of the couch. Now she nestled down among the cushions and lay watching the shadow elves as they chased the sunbeam fairies away. A plaid bugaboo behind every post and tree, but Dremia did not play with them as usual. She was too busy thinking of Santa Claus. He has always doing something for someone, she mused. I wonder why no one has ever thought to do anything for him. Wouldn't it be fun to have a party for him, a real Christmas party, and invite all of the folks from Dreamland, fairy tales, and make-believe land, Santa Claus land too, of course. We could have a Christmas tree and everybody could bring a present and we could have supper afterwards. I'll do it. And she bounced up and down on the springs of the old couch in her excitement. I'll ask Fairy Godmother to come and help me plan it. She loves to do such things, and she and Santa Claus are just like each other, only different. I know she'll come if I can only get the charm right. Dremia thought, turned over and buried her face in the pillow and began repeating, 1, 2, 3, earth, air, and sea. Fairy Godmother, bring to me tiny seeds and coach resplendent. At her slightest wish attendant, while unseeing I implore, bring, oh bring her to my door. Dremia's voice died away in a long, drawn manner. She lay perfectly still, holding her breath for fear she might break the charm. Hark! Wasn't that stamping of tiny hooves before her door? Wasn't that the rustle of silken gowns by her side? Dremia raised her head quickly. Sure enough, there on a low chair by the couch, her fairy wand laying on the Christmas book, sat Fairy Godmother herself. She turned with a smile on her face as Dremia raised her head. 1, 2, 3, earth, air, and sea. Fairy Godmother brought to me tiny seeds, a coach resplendent, and my slightest wish attendant. Wait before thy close-shut door. Pray thee, say what thou wilt thou more. What now, child? What is thy wish? A diamond necklace, or gold furniture, or a couch, and more? She asked. No, no, nothing for myself this time, dear Fairy Godmother, cried Dremia, jumping up hastily to greet her. But it's Christmas night, and Santa Claus has brought me ever so many pretty gifts this year. He has made me so happy that, as I lay here, I was wishing I could do something for him. Then a delightful thought came to me, and I wanted you to help me plan a surprise for him. Do you believe he would like a Christmas party, dear Fairy Godmother? A Christmas party? A Christmas party for Santa Claus? Why, Dremia, who ever heard of such a thing? I don't suspect anyone ever did, Fairy Godmother, and that is why I thought it would be fun. Couldn't we have a Christmas tree and everybody come and bring presents? A Christmas tree for Santa Claus, said Fairy Godmother rather breathlessly, her eyes twinkling with fun as she thought grew more familiar. Dremia, we'll do it as sure as I live. We'll do it this very night. Santa Claus is home now, fast asleep. He is so tired from his Christmas trip around the world that we can even get everything ready before he wakes. But how can you invite all the people so quickly? Objected Dremia. And where will you have the party? And how can you get everything ready if the little people of Santa Claus land are tired out and asleep too? Oh, no trouble at all, loftily answered Fairy Godmother. We will have it at Santa Claus Hall, Santa Claus' own home, which is built in the center of Santa Claus land. We will send the old woman who sweeps the cobwebs out of the sky to clean up the house for us. Mother Hubbard will go with her and get her cupboard ready to hold the goodies until it is time to set the table. Sorry, guys, let me move closer. I keep seeing my the flashes, and I know that bothers some people. Sorry about that, guys. The poor dog will not want any bone because he will have so much supper afterwards. Jack of the Beanstalk can take his hatchet and cut down the biggest Christmas tree in Christmas land. If his hatchet is sharp enough, I'll hitch him up to the beanstalk. I think that will do. Come, Dremia, put on your cloak and hood, and I will take you in the pumpkin coach to my house. I can plan so much faster there. Why, how can I ride in the little pumpkin coach, Fairy Godmother? Called Dremia as she obediently slipped on her coat and tied her hood tightly under her chin. I am too big. Anyone I wish can ride in my coach, answered the Fairy Godmother. Didn't Cinderella and Peter Pumpkin and other dear friends of yours? Besides, you're not so big as you think, touching the little girl with her wand as she spoke. Look in the glass, Dremia. Dremia looked up, and in the glass before her, she saw two little figures reflected. One was Fairy Godmother, surely in her peaked cap, flowing silk shirt, and high heel slippers with bows and silver buckles. But who was the other? That wee maiden in a red cloak and hood, gazing at her with startled eyes. Why, it was her own self. Oh, goody, goody. Guess I can ride in the pumpkin coach now. But shan't I be too heavy for the mouse gray steeds, Fairy Godmother? She asked as she hurried along by Fairy Godmother's side to the place where the golden coach stood waiting. No, they're not steeds from Fairyland. No, they are steeds from Fairyland, strong and nimble, Fairy Godmother answered, helping her in and nodding brightly to the coachman as she spoke. The footman slammed the door of the coach. The coachman gathered up the shining reins, snapped his whip over the heads of the gray mouse steeds, and away they went In just 2 jiffies, 2 wags of a lamb's tail, and a twinkle of an eye, the coach drew up before the quaintest of cottages, such as only a fairy godmother would think of having. There it stood under the wishing tree, right in the center of everywhere, with the children's world all around it, fairyland, Santa Claus land, toyland, dreamland, make-believe land, and mortal land, dimly seen beyond. I suppose it looks rather weird to you, said Fairy Godmother, but you see, the old woman who sweeps has a room in the attic, and it is much more convenient for her to come in through the big skylight, so I must have that. Then Mother Hubbard and the poor dog also live with me, since Father Hubbard passed away, and her cupboard takes up so much room that the kitchen has to be the biggest part of the house. The queen that eats bread and honey likes to come here too, and of course the kitchen must be nice for her. Come in, Dremia. Open the door, leading the little girl in. Dremia gasped with astonishment as she looked about her, for there was a big fireplace with a chimney large enough for the gnomes and brownies to come down whenever they were in too much of a hurry to enter at a door. For that matter, fairy folks do not need doors anyway. They just have to think where they want to be, and presto, there, in the big fireplace was a splendid fire of sweet-smelling wood, crackling and blazing brightly. 2 grotesque little fire elves with long pokers in their hand kept careful watch over the fire. Around the room there were odd-shaped toadstools, chairs, and tables. Couches as soft and cozy as a hummingbird's nest were piled with rose leaf and poppy petal pillows. Glowworm lamps hung twinkling from the ceiling. Spiderweb potpourris and curtains were draped at the door and windows. Thick gray and green moss rugs were spread upon the floor, and all the other dainty furnishings that fairies loved were to be seen. Come now, we must get to work, cried Fairy Godmother, bustling about. Mother Hubbard, oh, Mother Hubbard. And as that lady hastily appeared at the door, Fairy Godmother continued, put a glowworm lamp up on the skylight to let the old woman who sweeps know we want her. Then summons Giant Fee-Fi-Fo-Fum and have him carry your cupboard over to Santa Claus' house. Tell him we shall have a roast sirloin of beef with a sprig of holly on it for his supper, which will be much better for his digestion than the blood of an Englishman. Then we'll have the old woman who sweeps go over to Santa Claus's with you and straighten up the rooms and make everything ready for us. Let me see. Oh, yes. After the giant brings your cupboard, send Jack of the Beanstalk and the giant to find the very biggest tree in Santa Claus land and have them put it up in the farthest end of Santa Claus's main hall. Call the gnomes and the kobolds, then tell them to stir up a roaring fire and to decorate the hall with forest greens. They can stay around in the corners and see the frolic. Yes, take the poor dog along. He will want to share some of the fun too. Only be careful he does not get into a fuss with Puss in Boots. I was just about to buy him a coffin, ma'am, said Mother Hubbard, but perhaps he would rather go to the party. Very well, hurry along, commanded Fairy Godmother, and if you need any help, wake some of the little people of Santa Claus Land. They've had enough sleep by this time, only do not wake Santa Claus yet, whatever you do. Mother Hubbard bobbed her head and replied and disappeared, slamming the door after her in her excitement. Now, the invitations, said Fairy Godmother. How do you send them, Godmother? Asked Dremia. Who can go all over Fairyland and Dreamland, Make-Believe Land and Santa Claus Land, and get all the folks to Santa Claus Hall in time for the party? Why, Puck and Ariel. To be sure, answered Fairy Godmother briskly. Puck, you know, can put a girdle around the world in 40 minutes, and you can travel in no time all over Fairyland and Dreamland, while in Make-Believe Land, imagination takes you anywhere in a flash. Stepping to a window that looked towards Fairyland, she opened it, leaning far out, and rang a sweet-toned silver bell. To Dremia, the peals seemed to say, Come, 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 sprite and fairy, come. Hasten to do my bidding, hasten, for I am waiting. Pluck and Ariel, come, 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 come. Scarcely had the echoes died away when Pluck and Ariel floated lightly through the window. Puck was dressed in a brilliant suit of orange and yellow that made him look like a gorgeous butterfly, while Ariel was clad in a suit of the palest green, as delicate of that as any fine silk. They had come directly to Fairy Godmother, who had seated herself on the tallest toadstool chair, and doffing each his tiny cap, bowed before her with a flourish, repeating together, Swiftly, without halt or rest, we have come at thy behest. Tell us what it is thy command. We will go o'er sea or land, only let us know thy will, and thy bidding we'll fulfill. My faithful little messengers, I knew I could depend on you, said Fairy Godmother approvingly. But you will need to make haste. Now listen closely. I give you my message. Tonight, Dremia wishes to have a party for Santa Claus and desires all his friends and associates in Fairyland, Dreamland, Toyland, Make-Believe Land, Santa Claus Land. Invited, go then and bid them all to come. Tell each one to bring a gift to hang on the tree and some goodies for the supper that will follow. Pluck, go through the Fairyland and Toyland. Ariel, turn thou to Dreamland, where the swift nightmare will carry thee fast and far, and then to Make-Believe Land, where the flighty steed imagination awaits thee. Only be careful that imagination run not away with thee. Now, away, away. Grandmother dear, may I not go with them? Pleaded Dremia. I have always wanted to go to Fairyland and Toyland and Make-Believe Land. I hardly see how it can be managed. Doubtfully replied Fairy Godmother. They're going different ways. Couldn't I go with Pluck first and then with Ariel? Begged Dremia. I don't want to go to Dreamland, for I can go there any night by myself. I got an itch. And besides, I should be afraid if he intends to ride that dreadful nightmare. She goes so fast and furiously and takes you over such frightful precipices and through fire and water. You will take me with you, will you not, dear Pluck? Asked Dremia, turning to him. Surely we can manage it, little lady, answered Puck. Thou canst go with me to Fairyland and Toyland while Ariel goes to Dreamland. Then we can meet him, and thou canst accompany him to Make-Believe Land while I wake the little people of Santa Claus Land. Will that do? That will do. Just the nicest way, joyfully replied Dremia. Off with you then, said Fairy Godmother, for I still have much to do. Tell them all to be at Santa's Hall by 1 o'clock. Chapter 2. Delivering the Invitations. As Puck took Dremia's hand gently in his, she felt herself rise from the floor, and the red cloak seemed to buoy her up and bear her onward. At first, all was dark about them, but gradually the way grew lighter until they found themselves in the heart of Fairyland, where it is always bright. For there the pleasant sunlight in which the fairies love to work among the flowers and trees and to help their friends, the birds and the bees, grows dim only to make way for still more pleasant moonlight in which the fairies frolic and relieve to their hearts' content. Puck and Dremia passed through cool and mysterious forests, where wonderful birds with brilliant plumage were happily caroling. Dremia saw the timid forest fairies peeping shyly at them from behind the mossy trunks of the trees. Through the lovely garden they went, where the flowers were more splendid than Dremia had ever imagined, noble and bloomed, and where the bees and butterflies feasted and floated, tasting and sipping and carrying away the delicious fairy honey with the flowers had ready for them. On they went through the shadowy valleys, where the tinkle of waterfalls and the murmuring of running brooks could be faintly heard. On and on, as yet no messenger had been delivered. Dremia wondered why. We must deliver our message first to the king and queen of Fairyland, said Puck, answering Dremia's unspoken question. At last they came to a place where the moonlight was a little softer, the trees a little richer green, the flowers brighter and more fragrant, the music of the birds and the murmur of the brooks sweeter than anywhere else. In the midst of all this beauty, Oberon and Titiana loved to hold their court. Dremia rubbed her eyes to make sure she saw clearly. On the throne of ivory and mother of pearl sat the king and queen. Oberon, clad in royal purple robes with facings of gold and a gold crown on his head, was a king beyond compare. Tatiana, dressed in gleaming white, with strings of fairy pearls around her throat and waist, was a vision of loveliness. The diamond coronet rustling on her dusky hair sparkled like dewdrops in the moonbeams. Around the throne were gathered the lords and ladies of the fairy court. The gentlemen in rich attire of orange, purple, red, and dark green. The ladies in gowns of palest pink, lavender, yellow, and blue, all together forming a rainbow. A tiny page with a honeysuckle trumpet heralded the arrival of Puck and Dremia. "Approach," graciously commanded the king. "From whom dost thou come, and what is thy business with us this evening?" "We are messengers from the fairy Godmother, O King," answered Puck. "She and little Lady Dremia are giving a party for Santa Claus tonight, and request the honor of thy presence with that of thy courtiers in the far famed Santa Claus Hall. At 1 o'clock will the friends and the associates of Santa Claus gather to greet him and spend some happy hours." "Gladly and promptly we will be there, O messenger," answered the king. "The wish of the fairy godmother is as a command to all the fairies, and we would also honor the good Santa Claus and little Lady Dremia with our presents. Rich gifts we will bring to him who is always given to others, even as do the fairies. But stay thou and sup with us." "Nay, old king," the good messenger said, "delay not, thou king. Speed us on our way, I pray thee, for we have yet other lands to visit. The message must be carried far and wide." "Then go," commanded Oberon. "But some day, when the case is not so urgent, bring again the little Lady Dremia to our court, and we will show her our caskets of rare jewels and all the riches and wonders of fairyland. Will we not, my merry men and maidens?" "Yes, your majesty," came a chorus of soft voices. "A friend of fairy godmothers is always most welcome at our revels. Draw near before thou goest, little Lady Dremia," said Tatiana, who had hitherto been silent. "Art thou a good child, a lover of fairies as well as of Santa Claus?" "Oh, your majesty, I love them dearly," stammered Dremia. Her heart fluttered with excitement. "Then I will touch thee with my sceptre, and thou mayest ever be able to see us as we play in the forest or among the flowers, and never grow too old to care for us. Forget not through thy whole life this visit to the fairyland of childhood." Dremia curtsied low to the gracious queen. Puck again took her hand, and preceded by the tiny page, they left the royal palace and were soon on their way. By and by, the country through which they passed changed very much in appearance. Instead of being beautiful, everything was weird or curious or strange. Dremia did not understand why things look so different. "We're coming to Broken Toyland, where all the good broken toys go after they leave mortal land," explained Puck. "They have had hard lives, most of them, and gone through terrible experiences. Glad indeed are they to rest forever in this part of no man's land. but they are very sensitive. So if thou dost notice anything peculiar in their appearance, do not speak of it, I pray thee. I will be very careful, I promise. Dremia said earnestly, I know I do not like to have people notice my pug nose and my freckles. I always did wonder what became of all the old toys the children have loved so much. By this time they were passing through the groves of stiff little pine trees standing in straight rows. Dremia noticed that many of the branches were broken and the trunk scarred and notched as if by knives. Just beyond the grove was a placid lake where floating wrecks of stately ships and boats of various kinds. Had the lake not been very still and smooth, they would have probably sunk, for big holes showed in their hulls. Many of their masts were gone, most of the paint was knocked off of them, and their timbers gaped apart. Hardly had they passed the lake when Dremia was surprised to see in a green meadow many different kinds of animals laying down or moving about slowly. Horses, cows, pigs, goats, donkeys, and sheep were hobnobbling together, while dozens of chicken, geese, turkey were half hopping, half fluttering about. Oh, did they look so strange? What was the matter? Dremia would like to have called Puck's attention to them, but remembered what he had said and kept still. The fairy seemed to read her thoughts. I know, he said, it is very strange and sad. Look, some of the horses have only 3 legs. Some have lost their tails. The cows that ought to have crumpled horns have none at all. The sheep look as if the moths have gotten to their wool. The chickens have lost their cackles, and the ducks their quack, while the turkey tails have all gone to make feather dusters, and the poor geese's feathers to make doll mattresses. Poor thing, poor thing! Had it not been for the thought that broken toyland awaited them, they never could have stood the shock that came when the children so misused them. See, we are now coming to the menagerie, where the teddy bears that have been squeezed to within an inch of their lives, giraffes that had their necks stretched until they cracked, the wind-up tigers have broken their springs, the monkeys have swung till they can swing no more, while the dromedaries that have been dragged in the mud and dirt until they do not know themselves are trying to hide in dark corners. The elephants have gone mad and throw off their hadals and chase their attendants away. What could the children have been thinking to treat their pets so badly? A little beyond is the military hospital, and Puck pointed to a tumbling down building ahead of them. Valiant tin soldiers by the dozen are lying on the white beds, battered and forlorn, with doll nurses caring for them most tenderly. Outside the hospital, guns and balls of every size are piled in big heaps. Nearby is the doll hospital, where fussy, important doll doctors are given first aid to injured dolls of all sizes and ages. These are the Jack in the vainly trying to find their boxes, he continued, as some hobgoblin-looking creatures scurried past them. These weird-shaped objects running around in that distracted way are the dissected picture people hunting everywhere for their lost pieces. That long, low building is a carriage house where wagon wheels and piano legs chase one another about, trying to find where they belong. Over here in the concert hall, punctured drums, trumpets without the blow, horns without a key, violins minus strings, all together are making a horrible discord. See all of those round things up in the air? Dremia threw back her head and stared intently at the tiny bobbing dots that could be seen in the sky. Well, those are balloons that got away. The toy villages across the way are filled with dishes that have dropped and furniture that has its arms and legs dislocated. But you will find all the inhabitants of Broken Toyland as happy as kings in spite of their misfortune, for they know that nothing unpleasant will ever happen to them again. Puck stopped in the middle of a flat, grassy plain, picked up a penny whistle that lay on a stone nearby, just as it had been dropped and forgotten by some child in Mortal-land. He blew a shrill whistle. Then pandemonium reigned. Everybody and everything tried to get to him first. The invalid soldiers, forgetting their aches and pains, hobbled out with the pretty doll nurses, fair lady dolls whose patients ran out with the fussy doctors. Horses came galloping up on three legs, wagons and wheelbarrows and balls in every style rolled up. Teddy bears and lambs came together. The Jack and the fairly stood on their heads with excitement. Dishes and spoons paired off, and the dissected puzzle people mixed themselves up so they never to be straight again. Dremia watched them all in amazement. Never before had she seen such a sight. At another shrill note of the whistle, everybody stopped, as still as if playing. 1, 2, 3, squat where you are. Raising his voice so he could be heard by all, Puck gave his message. Friends of Toyland, ever living reminders of the happiness Santa Claus has given to the children of Mortal-land, hear ye the command of Fairy Godmother. This very night, all the people of the lands that make up the children's world join in a great Christmas party in honor of Santa Claus, given by little Lady Dremia and Fairy Godmother at the far-famed Santa Claus Hall. Can she depend on your being there? A party for Santa Claus? Would he care to see us again? They cried. Yes, all the more because you are reminders of happy Christmases gone by when he was the giver of happiness, answered Pluck. Then we will be there, one and all, though we have to come hippity jump. And they answered in chorus. I'll tell you what, cried the Jack in the, suddenly popping up from his box as the broken spring unexpectedly gave way. We'll get the biggest stocking that ever was filled at Christmas time and hang it up for Santa Claus's chimney piece. Then some of us will climb in, fill it to the brim, and have a tableau that will make him hold his sides with laughter. Oh, you dear things, cried Dremia, clapping her hands in delight. I can hardly wait till the time comes to see you. I will make a face at you until you all laugh and tumble out of the stockings if I don't. See if I don't. And once they began to plan who should get into the stocking, let me, was heard on all sides. Dremia and Puck put their hands over their ears and fled laughing from the hubbub. Children's toys always make such a clatter, said Puck. Only the fairies have the nicest, noiseless playthings. What do fairies play with? Asked Dremia, wondering. Oh, pretty seat balls, spiderweb hammocks, swings, grasshopper steeds, and bee lances. We pop the chestnut burrs and hide in the deserted milkweed pods. We play drop the rose petal and fairy wants a flower stalk. We join the moonbeams in a game of peekaboo with the quivering birch leaf. There is nothing coarse or cruel or silly in our play, answered Puck. Listen. Turning his head, the sound of a faint, far-off music was borne on the breeze. I hear Ariel coming. He will take thee now to make-believe land, while I go on and wake the little people of Santa Claus land. I will have some fun with them, methinks. I will tickle their toes and pull their nose and twitch the covers off them. Time they were up long ago, the little rascals. Why, they've been sleeping for hours. Hither, Ariel. Ariel drew rapidly near, singing in a sweet voice. Dainty little Dremia, wilt thou go with me over the hills and mountains, over the lake and sea, into every country, into every clime, known to varied people, known throughout all time. Swift imagination waits to bear on us. Dainty little Dremia, haste will be gone. Loosening her hold on Puck's hand, Dremia turned eagerly towards Ariel. She felt herself lifted and borne upward, but could not see the shape of the wonderful steed carrying her forward so rapidly. Where are we really going, Ariel? She asked. To the homes of all thy tiny little friends, dear Dremia, answered Ariel. Thou wilt soon see. Look, he pointed to a small hut in a green forest. Who is that going in at that door? Little Red Riding Hood with her basket on her arm, going to see her grandmother, exclaimed Dremia delightfully, waving to her as they passed. Who is that over there? Oh, Golden Hair and the three bears. The bears do not look very angry, even if she did break their chairs and eat their porridge. Do you suppose they'll come? Intermission. I gotta get a sip. Surely they will, answered Ariel, softly chanting his message as they flew swiftly onward. Fairy Godmother's greetings. Come one, come all, to a Christmas party at Santa Claus Hall, with a gift in thy tiny hand for the good Saint Nick. No time for delay. Be quick, be quick. See? There, under the trees, are Beauty and the Beast, said Dremia. How he does love her. How good she is to him. And I am sure that Hansel leading Gretel along the narrow path as we are near the cottage of the old witch. I am so glad she did not eat them up that time she had them. Isn't that Undine down by the waterfall? Do you think she will play any tricks for Santa Claus if she comes tonight? And the water babies in the stream a little farther on, do you suppose they will come with her? They hear you, Ariel, they hear you. And there is Jack, the giant killer's little house. I wonder where he keeps his famous hatchet. Oh my, that's the giant's castle up on the cliff, isn't it? I hope he won't come unless has a big supper first. I am afraid of him. Now I can see Sleeping Beauty's castle and the tower where she lay sleeping when the right prince kissed her. And there is the palace of the king who had the 24 blackbird pie. Do you suppose he would show us if we stopped? Next to it is Aladdin's wonderful place with the light of the magic lamp shining through the window. Make every one of them here, Ariel. I know they will all come. Swiftly forward they went. The open door of a cave in a rocky ledge attracted Dremia's attention. Oh, is that the cave of the 40 thieves where all the jewels and gold and silver dishes are shut up, Ariel? If we should say, "Open sesame," could we get in, do you suppose? Wish we had time to try. Oh, look at that beautiful garden over there with the silver bells and cockle shells. I know that belongs to Mistress Mary. Will she be too contrary to come, do you think, Ariel? Soon they were passing over a quaint, old-fashioned village. A boy with a squealing pig over his shoulder was running down the street. Tom, Tom's Piper's son, as I live, laughed Dremia. And there is Simple Simon fishing in a pail. The Jack Sprat, Boy Blue, Little Miss Muffet, Jack Horner, and a lot of my other friends live in this village, Ariel. Be sure to make them hear. They will all hear, Lady Dremia. Thou needst not fear, answered Ariel. By and by, Dremia noticed the blue waters of the sea beneath her. Glancing down, she saw a weird craft putting out from the shore. Oh, that's the 3 wise men of Gotham. They're putting to sea in their boat, she cried. Call them quickly, Ariel, before they are upset. And see this pretty island we're coming to. It's Robinson Crusoe's island, I know. Do you suppose he and his man Friday will come, Ariel? The little lame prince went sailing by on his magic carpet. Dremia called to him as he passed, and he smiled and nodded back at her. On they went, Ariel delivering his message. Everywhere. On they went, there and everywhere, in the very strangest places you can think of. He paused once at a house made from an old shoe with 11 children tumbling out of every crack and crevice. He stopped at a stable where a beautiful black horse lived, and a dog kennel with a message for a faithful dog. A small rabbit in a rabbit hutch cocked up one ear to listen. A frog sitting on a rock in a stream went kersplash into the water. He was so pleased when he heard the invitation. Ariel knocked loudly on a half-hidden door on a mountainside and told the Pied Piper he must be sure to bring his children for a Christmas party without children, even if Santa Claus were there, would not be a Christmas party at all. On and on until the messages had been delivered to every one that Dremia could possibly think of. I am sure that is all, dear Ariel. She sighed blissfully. Then must we be returning, Lady Dremia, answered Ariel. It will never do for the guests to arrive first at Santa Claus Hall. Listen, from all over the children's world came the sound of happy laughter and of merry bustle and confusion. One and all were primping and preparing for the trip to Santa Claus Hall. Indeed, some had already started, each with an appropriate gift in hand to hang on the Christmas tree or a place at the Christmas table. Dremia and Ariel were borne on lightly before them. We shall arrive first. Do not fear, Lady Dremia, said Ariel. Naught can exceed in swiftness the flight of imagination. Ooh. We are at chapter, I had to adjust, sorry guys. Chapter 3, welcome on in. Thank you all for being here. Chapter 3 in a Christmas Party for Santa Claus. Whirl sounded the warning note. Hickory Dickory Dock, who had run away up on top of the tall grandfather clock which stood in the stairwell in Santa Claus Hall, sat up suddenly with his heart fluttering, his beady black eyes gleaming, his whiskers twitching with excitement. Mother Hubbard and the old woman who sweeps were taking their last look around the rooms to be sure everything was in readiness. The floor of the great hall was clean as a broom could make it. Down at the farther end, behind an immense screen, stood a stately Christmas tree, all ready for lights and the gifts. A huge fire had been laid in the fireplace, and the fire elves had promised to touch it off at the proper moment so that the flames would illuminate the whole hall. Holly wreaths and bunches of mistletoe hung about, while Christmas garlands of all kinds were festooned from the rafters and windows. Santa Claus in the next room had just awakened with a yawn, and now could be heard moving about, getting ready to come to his cozy seat by the fire, all unconscious of what awaited him. Low giggles and faint rustling behind another tall screen at one side of the fireplace betrayed the presence of the people from Toyland, making ready for their tableau. They had borrowed the stocking of the giant Fee-Fi-Fo-Fum and were having a great time filling it. It was pretty well worn and had holes in the toes and heel, but that suited them all the better, for they could peep out and see more of the fun. The patter of feet outside was evident that Puck had thoroughly waked the little people of Santa Claus Land with his pranks, and they were ready for their part of the program. O-N-E solemnly struck the old clock on the stairs. Hickory Dickory Dock, half frightened to death, ran down the clock and scurried to his hole in the wall, leaving not so much as a whisker to be seen. Mother Hubbard and the old woman who sweeps had mysteriously vanished. Santa Claus pulled on his high boots with a snap and lay his hand on the doorknob, opening the door with a jerk. As he did so, the fire elves who had touched off their fire blew with all their might and main, so that the dancing flames made the hall bright. The bustle behind the fireplace screen ceased. Santa Claus took one step into the hall, rubbed his eyes as he came. Suddenly, a wild shriek of glee from old Boreas as he blew around the corner of the house caused Santa Claus to look up. The great outside door of the hall was flung open with a bang. The fire blazed up still brighter. The screen blew over, and in the door pulled a crowd of strangely familiar people, all laughing and talking and calling at once. "Merry Christmas, Santa Claus! Hooray for good Saint Nick! A Christmas party for Santa Claus! A Christmas tree for Santa Claus! A Christmas stocking for Santa Claus! Hooray! Hooray!" First and foremost came Fairy Godmother and Dremia, advancing gravely to Santa Claus. Fairy Godmother took him by the hand and led him, still too astonished to speak, to a prominent place in the head of the hall. "Dear Santa Claus," said Fairy Godmother, her sober face belied the twinkle in her eye, "wake and welcome us. We are giving you a Christmas party. Dremia here thought it was too bad. You should always be doing nice things for others and never have anything done to make you happy. So we have stormed your castle, invited your guests, and we are all ready for the biggest frolic ever known. Santa Claus, wide awake at last, burst into a hearty laugh. Dremia, hey, you old rogue, I might have known you would be up to something of this sort. You laugh in your sleep as I put your gifts in your stocking last night. So this is what you are planning. But I'll be bound the fairy godmother had a big share in it too. Dear Mr. Santa Claus, said Dremia shyly, slipping her hand into his and looking lovingly into his face. I wanted to do something for you. Everybody in Children World loves you so much, but we never thought before how we could let you know it. But see, Santa Claus, pointing to the huge stocking filled by the fireplace. It was filled with the funniest folks in all Toyland who were holding themselves perfectly rigid for fear they would laugh and spoil their tableau. See what you have in your stocking. Santa Claus turned about quickly and stared at the stocking and its contents somberly for a moment. The folks from Toyland stared back at him, looking as unconscious as possible. Then Santa Claus laughed again, reaching out for Jumping Jack, who was hanging to the toe of the stocking and pulling his string, though he danced a lively jig and merrily. You little rascals, if I don't get even with you for this, my name is not Santa Claus. Then, with chuckles of glee, the waggish little urchins from Toyland slipped out of the holes or jumped from the top of the stocking, scampering away to the right and to the left, out of Santa Claus's reach. Meanwhile, the other guests, as they came, disappeared for a moment behind a big screen, each leaving a mysterious looking package. Back and forth, hustle bustle, ran the little people of Santa Claus Land, lighting the candles and fixing up the Christmas tree, for who knew so well as they how it should be done? Soon the guests gathered about Santa Claus like bees around gorgeous honey. Santa Claus, entering into the spirits of fun, had a happy bantering word for everyone. Your worshipful majesties, bowing to Oberon and Tatiana, advanced to greet him. It is a far cry from fairyland to Santa Claus land. I am overwhelmed with the honor you have done me in coming to my house tonight. Only the fairy godmother could have brought you. I know. Most happily do I greet you and your court. What more crowned heads as the king of the counting house and the queen that ate the bread and honey followed closely after Oberon and Tatiana. Most welcome you are both. Did you bring the maid and the blackbirds with you? 'Pon my soul, if here's aren't good King Cole and his fiddlers three. Make yourself at home by my fireplace, your majesty, and you will find a pipe and a bowl handy. Stations the musicians on the stairwell landing where they could play for us. I presume the cat with the fiddle is here somewhere in the crowd, and he will be happy to join them later. Cinderella, my dear, did I not know you could be out after 12? The fairy godmother has relented since the prince found you, hasn't she? The frog prince and the haughty princess. What a fine looking couple. Well, well, and who is that behind you? Sleeping Beauty, as I live. wide awake now since the right prince kissed her, isn't she? Una and her lion, who would believe it? And golden hair and your 3 bears. Don't you sit through any more of my chairs, little girl, or I'll growl worse than the bears did. Alice from Wonderland, with the March hare and the Queen of Hearts. No heads off tonight, I pray you. Red Riding Hood in the care of the woodchopper. That's good. Hansel and Gretel, Snow White, Red Rose, children of the forest. I'm glad to see you all. Jack Horner, we have a special corner for you. And if there isn't a plum pie somewhere around, my nose misleads me. Boy Blue, give us a blast of your wonderful horn. Perhaps you would like to join the fiddlers on the stair. Mistress Mary, no contrary fits here, not a pout nor a frown permitted. Oh, Jack and Mrs. Sprat, Puss in Boots, little Miss Muffet, Peter Rabbit, how it gladdens my heart to see every one of you. Tom, the piper's son, Simple Simon, how do you do? Happy as ever, though not overburdened with wits. Well, never mind, dear boys. Here are the 3 wise men of Gotham, and their wisdom did little more for them than your witlessness did for you. Welcome, welcome, dear friend. Make yourself at home. You all know one another, I am sure. Who lives in the children? Those who live in children's world need no introductions. Fairy Godmother and Dremia have charge of everything tonight. I am only a guest myself. After greeting Santa Claus, the guests turned to Fairy Godmother and Dremia. Fairy Godmother they knew well, but Dremia was a stranger to some of them. Very sweet she looked as she stood there, her eyes sparkling, her cheeks flushed with excitement. The party was oh so much lovelier than she had ever dreamed it would be. She shyly added her welcome to those of Santa Claus and Fairy Godmother, and then forgot herself entirely as she watched the guests moving to and fro, talking together and forming such strange groups, young and old, fat and thin, fairies and giants, kings and servants, princess and thieves, bears and timid maidens, rabbits and pussycats, were all laughing, joking, and having the merriest possible time. It was not long before the little people of Santa Claus Land had finished their work and peeped from behind the screen, nodded to Fairy Godmother. She nodded back, turned to the musicians on the broad landing of the stairs, and gave them the signal to begin. At once they struck up a rolling Christmas tune. The big screen was drawn back by invisible hands, and the most wonderful Christmas tree that ever was seen stood revealed in all its beauty. Willow the wisp, lights gleaming on every twig. On the topmost branches swayed a lovely fairy, clad in snow white, with glittering diamonds and emeralds in her hair and her belt. Tiny elves and gnomes perched about among the branches, looking saucily out. Strings of bright red and waxen white berries were looped from the twig to twig. Knobbly, weird-shaped packages hung thick on the tree and were piled in heaps beneath it. Santa Claus gazed at everything. It fascinated until the music died away. Well, 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 he said slowly. I thought I had seen every possible kind of beautiful tree, but this is this far exceeds them all. Aren't you going to let me distribute the gifts, Fairy Godmother? No, answered Fairy Godmother. You're to sit here in your armchair while I act as mistress of ceremonies and take the gifts from the tree. Dremia, you hand them. Dremia may hand them to you. All right, said Santa Claus as he sat down in his cushioned chair. I will watch and see how you do it, and perhaps I shall be able to do better myself next year. Now then, where shall we begin? Questioned Fairy Godmother, glancing quickly from the tree to the pile of gifts beneath it, while the rest of the company crowded closely around to see each package as it was unwrapped. Begin with your own, please, Fairy Godmother, begged Dremia. It is the biggest, and so many of the other things will go in it that it should come first. But it isn't here, objected Fairy Godmother. That doesn't make any difference. Let me tell him. Oh, do, dear Fairy Godmother, pleaded Dremia, and seeing permission on Fairy Godmother's face, she turned to Santa Claus, saying, outside in your stable, Mr. Santa Claus, you will find a brand new pumpkin yellow sleigh, a fairy kind that will always be big enough no matter how much you want to carry in it. Fairy Godmother gives it to you. Ho, ho, laughed Santa Claus. It takes a fairy godmother to know just what one wants, doesn't it? I was beginning to fear my old sleigh would not last another year. Thanks from the bottom of my heart, kind fairy godmother. And from Dremia, with my aid, comes a magic sack for your toys pack. It too will always be large enough for whatever you wish to put in it, said Fairy Godmother, beaming with pleasure because Santa Claus liked her gift so much. I know you, Dremia, said Santa Claus, catching the little girl and giving her a loving squeeze. You want me to bring you more toys next year than ever before. We'll see about that. We'll see about that. Here is another large gift, continued Fairy Godmother, picking up a bulky package from under the pile and reading the tag. A pair of fur-lined boots from Puss in Boots, and right beside it lifted another, a fur cap made and presented by Robinson Crusoe and his man Friday. Next, 2 fur robes from the teddy bears and a pair of mittens from the 3 little mittens who will always help you find them. Good, good, cried Santa Claus, piling his treasures around him. I shall be snug as a bug in the rug. These young ones eventually think the old man needs to be taken care of. I'll show them how lively I'll get around next year. Jack Frost and old Boreas will not have a chance to play any tricks on me. Jack the Giant Killer sends a beanstalk ladder for you to use in the tall chimneys, continued Godmother. I'll surely use it, replied Santa. Mistress Mary sends a string of silver bells for the reindeer. Wow, they shake their heads to hear them ring. Now here's some home comfort, said Fairy Godmother briskly. From Aladdin is a wonderful genie's lamp to hang in Santa's hall. She handed it carefully to Santa, who by this time was too overcome to speak. A pair of spun glass house slippers from Cinderella, with the hopes that they will not be too small. This new pipe is from King Cole. This big brown bowl comes from the 3 wise men of Gotham. They do not wish to go to sea any more. This new armchair is from the 3 bears, for they think you will need a new one after the golden hair has been here. It should stand on this happy square of carpet sent by the little lame prince. Now, what is this? Taking her hand, a soft, round, warm, wiggling bundle. A small black head popped out, and at one ear a faint whine was heard. A puppy, as I live, a puppy, with the compliments of Mother Hubbard, who knows there can be no gift nicer. A shout of laughter arose from the guests as the puppy rolled and tumbled over Santa Claus's feet. As Fairy Godmother turned back to the tree, a pitiful meow greeted her, and hastily taking down a bag that hung on a high branch, she exclaimed, I declare if it isn't a companion for the puppy, big Jack Sprout, since the kitty he pulled out of the well where little Johnny Green threw it. Then everybody laughed again as hard as they could. Poor Kitty's eyes grew big with fright, but Santa held it on his knee and smoothed its soft fur until it quieted. When Fairy Godmother went on calling off the names rapidly, an excellent broom from the old woman who sweeps, a basket from Little Red Riding Hood, a sleeping powder from Sleeping Beauty to use when you're tired after your next long trip, a candy pig from Tom the Piper's son, to make you think of his particular friend, some fishhooks from Simple Simon, with a note saying it is useless for you to fish in his mother's pail, for he has tried it and is sure there are no more fish there, a flute from the Pied Piper that will make the children love you more than ever, a tin horn from Little Boy Blue, so you need not chase up and down so much to gather your woolly lambs. Oh, Santa Claus, what a good time you can have. But what is this? What is this? Said Fairy Godmother, as she stooped over a cradle-shaped bundle near the back of the tree, somewhat out of sight, and the tag read, From the old woman who lives in this shoe. She has so many children, she didn't know what to do. So this littlest baby she'll send to you with a Christmas message of love so true. Oh, 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 Santa Claus, cried the guest, doubling up with laughter. Whatever will you do with the littlest baby? Santa Claus gathered it tenderly in his arms and cuddled it close to his long beard. The littlest baby, what will I do with it? Why, love it and care for it, to be sure. Don't you think I know how to care for a baby by this time? Here's something else, and interrupted Fairy Godmother, reading from Peter Rabbit a rabbit skin to wrap the little baby in. Nothing could be better, said Santa Claus promptly, taking it and wrapping it carefully around the littlest baby. And so Fairy Godmother went on reading the tags and handing over the packages until Santa Claus was almost buried beneath the pile. Dremia thought she had never enjoyed Christmas tree or her own gifts half as much as these given to Santa Claus. Meanwhile, the little people of Santa Claus Land had been busy in another part of the hall. When Santa Claus and the guests finally turned their attention from the dismantled tree, they found a long table spread for a Christmas feast, and groaning beneath it, a load of dainties, as all good Christmas tables do. Oh, such goodies! Fairy Godmother had ordered everything she could think of. She knew, with guests from every country under the sun, there must be dishes to suit all taste. At the top of the table was a boar's head with an apple in its mouth. At the bottom, an immense roasted turkey, while scattered around were German Christmas cake, dishes of macaroni, jellies, pickles, salads, vegetables, more than one could name or think of. It made one's mouth water to see it. The merry company gathered around the table. Santa Claus was given the seat of honor at the head, with Dementia at his right hand. Fairy Godmother sat at the foot, and the others took their places as it happened. And as they were all so well acquainted, everyone had a jolly chat with those sitting next to him. Fairy Godmother served and kept the little people of Santa Claus Land busy handing plates. As they passed each dish, Fairy Godmother told which of the merry company had brought it to the Christmas feast. She thought they would enjoy the good things more if they knew where they had come from. For our first course, we have a mock turtle soup, she said. Alice brought it from Wonderland, so you know it must be good. And for the next course, the little fishes caught by Tommy Tittlemouse and Daddy catches them with a hook. Though they are small, they are certainly delicious. This splendid piece of beef was sent by Taffy the Welshman. I did not ask him where he got it, but I know he came by it honestly. Then this nice dish of fat and lean meat was given by Jack and Mrs. Spratt. You can take whichever you prefer, and then you will be as happy as they are. Tiny Tim could not come for himself, but he has sent the Christmas goose with a Christmas greetings to all. The duck in the same course came from the little man who had a little gun. The bread and the cheese was sent by the bachelor who lives by himself, and it is sure to be fine, for he is very careful to keep it on the shelf away from the rats and the mice. If you prefer it, however, here is the famous bread and honey the Queen likes so much, or fresh muffins made by the Muffin Man of Drury Lane. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers and sent half of them to your Christmas feast. Just try them, you'll find them very spicy. Here were some beautiful eggs from the big white hare of Easter Island. When he sent us for the party, instead of keeping them to color for the children for next Easter, and some of you may enjoy this delicious porridge from Golden Hair. It was made after the recipe used for the little wee bear's porridge, which she liked so much. Miss Muffet brought us a big bowl of curds and whey, and says that the spider did not come anywhere near her while she was preparing it. We have two choicest kinds of pudding, one from the old man and the 3 wishes, and the other from King Arthur. King Arthur says it is all a mistake about his stealing 3 pecks of barley meal for the pudding. Why should he steal meal when he is king and could have all he needed? We should have a 3rd pudding, but the cat ran away with the pudding bag string. So it could not be cooked in time. It is lucky for us that he did not come to Santa Claus Hall tonight. Jack Horner says this is the best mince pie he has ever eaten, and he has pulled the plums out of enough pies to be a good judge. If you will find plenty of plums, so each of you may stick your thumb and pull one out. The pumpkin pie is from Peter Pumpkin, made from one of the pumpkins in corner lot, and the sweetest, juiciest, creamiest, spiciest pie that cook could make. Look and listen, said Grandmother, calling the attention to the guests to another mysterious pie before them. Carefully, she cut the crust. This is the famous blackbird pie sent by the king. It is not a worthy dish to set before Santa Claus. As the crust fell apart, the 24 blackbirds sat up chirping and twittering, sweeter than any Christmas carol you have ever heard. The Queen of Hearts has brought some fresh tarts, which she made and hurried away before the Knave of hearts could steal them. Have you ever eaten anything better? Handy Spandy Jack-a-Dandy sends a plum cake and sugar candy. Because he loves them so, he had a large supply on hand and sent more than enough for all of us. If you thirst, there is a tea brewed by Polly Put the Kettle On, rich milk from the cow with the crumpled horn, sent by Maiden All Forlorn, and the sparkling water which Undine has brought now. Help yourselves, all of you. There is surely enough variety that everyone can have what he likes best. For a time, the little clatter of dishes and the din of the happy voices was all that could be heard, but gradually, as their appetites were satisfied, the guests ate more slowly. As they lingered over the plum cake and sugar candy, Fairy Godmother stood in her place, rapped on the table with her wand, and commanded attention. And holding high a brimming goblet of sparkling water, proposed a toast. Sorry about the flashing, guys. I don't know why it's doing that. Here's to Santa Claus, best love of all, who lives in children world, the one whom all delight to honor, whose heart is ever warm, whose laugh is ever hearty, who visits ever give happiness, health, and long life to Santa Claus. Rising from their seat, with one accord, clinking their glasses together and crying, Santa Claus, long life to Santa Claus. The guests drank the toast with the heartiest goodwill and high spirits. Santa Claus pulled his handkerchief, blew his nose with a loud blast in order to conceal his feelings, and at last, finding his voice, responded, Thank you, many good friends. You do me so much honor, for what would Santa Claus be without all of you? How could I get along without a friendly fairy godmother to tell me what the children are longing for? How could I satisfy their wishes were it not for the goodly company who go so willingly to make the children happy? How could I ever fill my pack and make my rounds without assistance from the energetic little people of Santa Claus Land? I cannot tell you how I rejoice to see you here tonight. Let us love one another here and always work together, our only aim being to make the children happier and better. Hear, hear, cried the guest as Santa Claus sat down. Before Fairy Godmother could speak again, up rose Cinderella's handsome prince, crying happily, Another toast I give. Here's to the daintiest, the most bewitching little old lady ever known, only second to Santa Claus in the children's world, to her who sympathizes in their longings, who finds a way to grant their wishes, who takes them on long journeys to mysterious places and introduces them to wonderful people unknown to the grown folks. Here's to her who gave me the loveliest bride that ever happy prince had, glancing down at Cinderella, blushing by his side. Drink, I say, to the health of Fairy Godmother. Santa Claus jumped to his feet and led the joyous clamor of voices that responded to the happy prince's toast. Fairy Godmother, here to Fairy Godmother, they cried again and again, in order to be on a level with the tallest of them. Fairy Godmother stood on a chair and shook her wand threateningly at the happy, noisy crowd, but the pretended frown on her face fled before her twinkling eyes. Oh, you wicked lad and lassies, You see how I shall pay you back for this. Shall I turn you into toads and pollywogs? I know what I'll do. I'll grant you each your first wish, so be careful. That will teach you not to draw attention to a wrinkled old woman like me. Our first wish shall be granted, called the prince. Then let us all wish for every possible joy to our dear fairy godmother herself. Every possible joy to fairy godmother herself, echoed every voice, and they laughed in their glee at having outwitted the jolly little lady. One more toast, called Santa Claus. One more toast before our feast ends. Here to Dremia. Here to the darling little Dremia, whose grateful heart and loving thoughts led to our coming home together. Dremia, whose joy in Santa Claus delights in the fairies, revels in the toys, loses herself with the charming folks who dwell in the make-believe land. May she never lose her loving child's heart, though she lives to be as old as Fairy Godmother thinks herself to be. Bowing low to the beaming little old lady at the foot of the table, drink all to the health of darling Dremia. Seizing the little girl, he lifted her to his broad shoulders and nodded to the musicians, who struck up a rolling, kicking tune. Up and down the long hall he went, and the guests following behind, dancing, curtsying to each other, whirling around, making cheese and cutting up hundreds of capers. A game of blindman's bluff before we leave, called someone, and Santa Claus must be it. All right, roared Santa Claus. Dremia shall bind my eyes with her sash, and I will catch you all in a jiffy. And then there was such a frolic as you cannot imagine. The guest fled shrieking to the corners and cubby, but all to no avail. Santa Claus made wild dashes this way and that. He caught Cinderella and Tom, the piper's son, with one hand. Jack Horner and Sleeping Beauty had sought the same corner, and he soon found them. He pounced on Queen of Hearts just in time to save the Frog Prince's head, which she was angrily ordering off because he had gotten her way. He fumbled in the chimney corner and caught King Cole accidentally knocking over his pipe and bowl and breaking them all to smash. Boy Blue and Alice from Wonderland had hidden under the table, but he soon stopped and dragged them out by their hair. Peter Rabbit, sorry about the flashing, I'm going to turn it around. Peter Rabbit and Little Red Riding Hood eluded him for a while, but finally he cornered them too. Fairy Godmother was cunningly hidden behind the littlest baby's cradle, while Dremia had hid under the soft cushions, but it was no use. Santa Claus knew them all too well. He could guess just where to seek them. They had given up on dropping, panting and breathless on chairs and couches on the floor. Just then the littlest baby, wakened by the merrymaking, set up a frightful wail. There, did we wake her? Soothed Santa Claus, cuddling her in his arms, rocking to and fro. There, we'll not do it any more. But how are you going to get all of these folks home, Fairy Godmother? I'd like to know. Why, pack them in the pumpkin coach and the new Santa Claus sleigh, and away with them, answered Fairy Godmother briskly, stepping to the great outside door and signaling as she spoke. Immediately the twinkle of the reindeer bells and the blowing of the coachman's horn could be heard. I'm with you all, commanded Godmother, hurrying to the door. Good night, dear Santa Claus, they called as they obeyed her. Never, no, never have we had such a good time. Good night, Dremia. Can you not think of another frolic for us sometime? Good night, Fairy Godmother, said Dremia. Good night, my dear Mr. Santa Claus. May we come again next year? The flash of impatient reindeer and the mousy gray steeds vanished with their load, leaving Santa Claus standing in the doorway, the littlest baby in his arms, the puppy tumbling about his feet, and the little cat curled up in the arm of his chair. He shut the door and came slowly back to the fireplace. A Merry Christmas party for Santa Claus. Well, I never. And that ends our story tonight.